Welcome back to the Celtic Soul Podcast with me, Andrew Milne. My guest on the show today will be former Celtic player Rudi Vata. This episode has been kindly sponsored by Brendan McCann out in Dubai. Thanks to Brendan for his continued support of both the fanzine and the podcast. If your business or Celtic Supporters Club would like to support the podcast and become a sponsor, please email us at info@celticfanzine.com. You can also contact us through the website or message us on social media. A cocktail of COVID-19 and the international break have played havoc with Neil Lennon's preparation for the top-of-the-table clash tomorrow against the Rangers. El Hamid and Beaton have tested positive on international duty with Israel, along with Eddie, who tested positive away with the French under-21s, and Ryan Christie will also miss the game as he has to self-isolate because he came in close contact with former Celtic player Stuart Armstrong, who tested positive in the Scottish team base. Not ideal preparation, you'll all agree, as this virus continues to spread throughout the world, and with no vaccine in sight, everyone's just trying to juggle living with this thing and trying to get back to some sort of normality without spreading the virus even more. It's good to see on social media that some Celtic fans will be able to get together and watch the game in safety. I see the boys in Dubai have stuff organised and over in Australia and New Zealand, but for us in Ireland and indeed our fellow fans in Glasgow, no such luck. Not only can we not get to Celtic Park, but we can't even go to the pub now to watch this game, as governments have ramped up measures to try contain the virus as it seems to be spreading and spreading. There have been a section of the Celtic support who have been unhappy with Neil Lennon and his rotation of the squad. Maybe now they might think it's a positive as we go into the game without key players to start or key players on the bench. The more game time the whole squad has got is all the better in these worrying times. We need a big squad. We need to be able to compete, and we need to be able to compete if we lose key players. Rudi Vata was signed by Liam Brady in the summer of 1992 in Dublin after a man-of-the-match performance for Albania against Ireland. He won the Scottish Cup under Tommy Bones in 1995 and is remembered fondly for scoring against Rangers from a free kick in a 3-0 win for the Hoops. Hi Rudi, you're very welcome to the Celtic Soul Podcast. The last time we spoke was back in McCool's in Glasgow at one of our live shows before the Celtic Rangers game. A lot has happened since then with the coronavirus spread throughout the world. The league was cancelled and Celtic were awarded the title. Strange times.
Strange times, but we have to survive, my friends. I am a survivor, so I am used to much more difficult times than that in my life. So for me, it's like, it's a normality in me because I can adjust very easy. And I am a very positive person. And I don't like to believe that those situation can bring me down or can put me in a difficult situation. I always think to stay healthy, to work hard, and to make sure that I do the right thing. Health is important, the most important thing in this period, and you need to look after yourself, and you need to make sure you are doing the right things, you're eating the right things, you're drinking the right things, you're sleeping and having enough time to feel life.
Great to hear some positivity there, Rudi. Thanks for that. I know from chatting to you before, you've always got a positive outlook on life, and I'm sure the listeners will be happy to hear that. Now, as I said, strange times. Celtic take on Rangers on Saturday. You've played and scored in these games, but you've always had fans in the stadium. Do you think this will give Stephen Gerrard's team an advantage? And how do you see the game getting played out?
Well, when you look at football right now, it doesn't seem real to me. To be honest, football without fans it's just like training, to be honest. Even in training sessions, if fans were allowed, there'll be fans there following their team, you know. But when you think that Celtic is playing Rangers, and when you think those clubs they've been in so many big atmospheres, and the fans are everything in this kind of games. So without the fans, again, I think the game is going to be sad. It's not going to be the same kind of game, and it's a shame because the players also they need the fans, and of course the fans need the players to be there. But that's the way it is right now, and for sure. Rangers going to Celtic Park, for sure. They without fans there, they'll be comfortable. They'll be comfortable, and they'll be thinking the fans at Celtic Park are almost like the 12th player for the team. So I don't know. I never ever experienced to play in an official game without fans, and I don't know the feeling, but I can imagine all the players are feeling, and even the managers, and it's strange. It's strange, and it's not normal. But it's a game to be played, and it's a game to be won. And the Celtic players, they are good enough in the team, and they sit on top of the league. There, they of course there is a long way to go, but they have a big achievement to achieve at the end of the season for the 10 in a row. So I am sure that the preparation will be right, and Neil Lennon's players are going to give their all to make sure that they get the point at Celtic Park.
Now, you played, as I said, you played in these games, and you spoke there about Neil Lennon. How important is the motivation that the manager will give the players with no fans? Because obviously, you said you played when the stadiums were full. The atmosphere obviously drove you on. The fans, the 12th man. Like, can you take us back to your time in the dressing room and on these occasions?
Well, those games, as you know, and we know, everybody knows, those games, the motivation is, it all depends on the player itself. The manager cannot tell you how important is this game for the fans, for the history, for the club. This game is I think, one of the biggest game in football. So, and for the players to understand that they don't need to look at to listen to someone to tell them. They understand straight away as soon as you sign for Celtic Football Club. The history, the tradition is there to tell you that this is something big you're going to be part of. And especially playing on those games, then when you have the first experience, it's when you realize that's what it means. And when you win, it's also, of course, one of the best feelings a football player can get, because that make the life completely full. And but I am sure that it will be very, very difficult not to have the fans in the stadium. As I say, for Celtic, the fans are everything. For any big club like Celtic, I think fans are very, very important. And the manager, it's of course is going to give all the information about the opponents. He's going to try and set up the team with the best players that he thinks he can have available and can perform and get the points. But it's the players are going to perform there. They need to be engaged from the first second till the last second of the game. They need to be very well concentrated, and they need to make sure that they work for the fans also, because the fans are going to be all over the world. They're going to be in front of the television to watch this game. So it's a big responsibility. This game is a big responsibility, because there'll be millions of viewers all over the world watching that game. And especially in those difficult times when there's not much to enjoy, this game is something that everybody is waiting with, and they can. I'm sure there are so many fans talking non-stop about these games, and again, it's big, and it's big responsibility, big responsibility.
Do you remember how you felt when you bent that ball around the wall? Score against Rangers in the 3-0?
Of course, I do remember, because, as I say, until you try, until you experience that moment, you understand what it means. To score a goal against Rangers, you cannot describe the feeling. To win, it's also very, very special. But those moments, they build your career. They make you feel proud, and later on in life you look back and you say, at least, yes, I know what it feels, I know what it means, because I was there. And it's great to have it to have that kind of experience, I think it's fantastic. Makes you feel proud, make you feel strong, make you feel very comfortable in life.
Now, Rudi, we've looked back there at that game against Rangers, but I want to take if you can take the listeners back to growing up in communist Albania and those early years and how you began playing football.
Well, I was born in Albania. Albania was a communist country for almost 50 years, and I became an adult in Albania. I became 21 years old in Albania. Obviously, to be born in a country like Albania, it's not easy. Was the worst dictatorship, I think, in the history of the human being, and we had no freedom. When you don't have freedom, you don't get opportunities. And we all know that without opportunities, you cannot build up your future. And the thing was that there was very strict in those times, and the communists were so bad. It was not like in the other ex-communist countries, they still had the freedom to travel or to wear whatever they want. But in our country, we were not allowed to even imagine that you could have a pair of blue jeans to wear. That was totally illegal. And never mind to have a chewing gum or simple thing. First time I drank a Coca-Cola, I think I was when I went with the national team abroad. I was 18, 19 years old. I tried for the first time the Coca-Cola, how it tasted. But that's how it was then. I had to make a decision when the right time arrived for me in 1991. We were going to play Albania had to play France at Parc des Princes, March 1991, and I had made the decision. Then after the game, I will look for political asylum. I will stay in France, so I can build my future in Western countries like France, and take that opportunity and use it as much as I can, and make sure that I'm going to achieve what I wanted to achieve, because I wanted to be a professional football player in West. I wanted to have that kind of experience, and I had to escape. I left the national team after the game. I had $50 with me in the pocket, a pair of football boots in my football bag, and a pair of jeans, T-shirt, and a jacket. And with $50 in my pocket, I started to build up my life. So it started there in France, 1991. My professional career started then.
But you were refused political asylum. So how did you manage to stay in the country?
I was refused political asylum because they treated my case as I was. They say that I was not tortured in my country. I was not persecuted, so I was one of the privileged people in the country. So the French, they did refuse, but in the meantime, they could not deport me because I didn't have a permanent visa to stay in the country. But the club I was involved with, they got kind of a working visa at the time. And then in 1992, when I was allowed to go and play back for national team because the regime collapsed after early 1992. So in June 92, I went back to play for national team. And it happens that we played Spain away in Seville, and then after Spain, we had to go and play Ireland in Dublin. So after the game in Dublin, I was voted man of the match, and it happened that in this game in the main stand in the VIP area was sitting Liam Brady, the manager of Celtic at the time, and he made some inquiries about my availability. And that's it. When I find out Celtic is interested, then that was the top news for me at the time. I was going to sign for a French club, and when Celtic came up with the interest, then I made my mind straight away, and I says, "Listen, I want to do that. I want to go to Scotland and play for Celtic." So it was more or less a very, very simple decision. I wanted to get that opportunity, and that's 1992 August, I believe. 92, I signed for Celtic, and that's where it started. The next stage, because I stayed almost 19 months in France. I had some very difficult times, but it's to explain everything what's happened, to tell what's happened in France. I can write a book about the difficulties and how hard it was. But in my mind and in my head, I was very strong that nothing is going to back me off. I am going to make it, and I worked so hard, and I was thinking non-stop just to make it. And I managed through hard work, and eventually it paid off, because when Celtic came with the proposition, that was the biggest news I had in my life until then.
I'm just going to stay in Dublin now, okay? Liam Brady is in the stand. Am I right in saying that, because from speaking before, you had no agent and you didn't speak English?
No, I didn't have an agent. I had a French guy who looked after me, actually, because the French guy was the sponsor of the club. I had a bad injury when I arrived in France. I had no insurance. I could not cover the hospital expenses. So this French guy, he asked me to help me, and more or less it was him who contacted directly with the secretary of Celtic, and they made the whole arrangement. He was the woman who was speaking French. He could speak the French guy. The name was Jean-René Belliard. Jean-René Belliard was he was a businessman, more or less, and he took care of my expenses, and more or less he did that kind of job at the time for me. He was not an agent, but he took care of my situation. He looked after a lot.
Now, Liam Brady, while he was in Italy, he learned to speak Italian. You also spoke Italian because a priest had taught you Italian back in Albania, and you conducted your conversations with Liam in Italian. That priest, Rudi, am I right in saying that? Am I right in saying that Catholicism was banned in Albania? And how did this priest? Well, how was he available to teach you Italian? And can you just tell us a little bit that situation?
Well, when I was about 9 years old, my parents, they decided to. It was in their mentality. They used to tell me that more languages you speak, more doors you'll open in your life, and they decided to employ in an illegal way, because this priest, he had spent about 20. He was an ex-priest at the time. He was not a priest anymore. He had been in prison for 22 years because he was a priest. in Albania, we are now allowed to follow the religion. The communists decided after Second World War, they decided to shut all the churches, all the mosques, whatever was there, and the priests, they were put to prison. Most of them, they were killed because they spoke about God. They wanted peace. They wanted freedom. Obviously, that with the communists didn't go along. And my parents contacted this man who had been in prison, and we had an underground room, and we went to study twice a week Italian, me and my brother. My brother was 11 years old. I was 9 years old. We started twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, Italian in that room, underground room we had. So we became. I started to speak Italian. Obviously, by 10 years old, I could speak Italian. I could understand Italian very good, and thanks to this priest, and thanks to my dedication. And I wanted to learn Italian because it was something that really made me feel good, and that helped me a lot because Liam Brady and me, we discussed Italian in every situation, and he helped me to explain how things are in Scotland and many things. So thanks to that priest and thanks to my parents' upbringing, I became obviously I became that kid that could speak Italian when I was 10 years old.
And Rudi, your folks said to you that, speak as many languages as possible and it would open doors for you. How many languages does Rudi Vata speak now?
I speak 6 languages now. So I have I played in Germany, so I learned German. French was easy to learn because Italian and French, obviously they are both Latin. They come from the Latin language, so it was not easy, but it helped me a lot. Knowing Italian, it helped me a lot to learn the French. I learned obviously English when I was here, and of course Albanian, and I speak also Serbo-Croatish, the Yugoslavian language. So that's how I learned. But the experiences, they helped me a lot. Playing in different countries and having those experiences, I think they created too much possibilities for me to learn the language, to understand the tradition, to understand the mentality and the history of those countries I worked in, and it's great because that you feel full, you feel rich. You cannot buy knowledge, and you can have a lot of money, but you cannot buy knowledge. You cannot go to supermarket and say, here, I want to buy a language. You need to go through stages, and you need also to have that passion. And in general, I was very passionate about learning, and I'm always hungry. I like always to learn. I like to discover. I like to progress. That's the only way. Like Einstein says, Einstein used to say that every time I read a book, I understand what an ignorant I am. So we always can learn, and learn and never stop. And that's my opinion. So, and that makes you great, because in any country I go, I can communicate, and I can have it makes life easier, more or less. It makes life easier. That's what I can say.
So really, you arrive in Glasgow after being signed. The Glaswegian accent is a lot different than the Queen's English. And
100%.
so you have to learn I suppose, the language, and you have to learn the dialect. Through those years, Rudy, like there was a lot of turmoil at Celtic. Liam was replaced by Lou McCarry. The old board was ousted. The Fergus McCann era arrived. A new stadium was being built. Celtic got homeless on the rent in Hampden for the year as the stadium's rebuilt. We finally lift some silverware, and you play in that final in '95.
100%.
So much happened on and off the park in those years. Just tell the listeners about, the time on the park, because it's well documented, the time on the park. But fill us in what it was like off the park in Glasgow back then for someone arriving from, Albania to this city that we all love.
But I told you when I arrived here, I had to obviously was a very difficult decision to make because I was living in a beautiful country and I was almost settled in perfectly well, but something told me, and you need to go there. You need that experience because that will help you a lot. And that's what I didn't think twice. And I felt sorry when I left France, but I didn't feel very bad. I knew that I'm coming to a new country, new language, new people, new tradition. The weather is different, the food is different. So, but again, I came here to progress, and I wanted to have that experience in such a big club because that kind of experience would come once in a lifetime. So I wanted to make most of it, and it was very difficult. The language was very difficult to understand the English. I used to come home every day after training, used to sit down, write down notes and sentences from different TV programs, and whatever you got in whatever I had in the television. And I used to learn a lot of English. And when I used to go at Celtic Park, I used to listen to what Peter Grant is saying, Charlie Nicholas, Joe Miller. I couldn't understand a word. And I thought this is... and I was understanding quite well what I was listening in television because everything was spoken clearly and made, obviously, was simple for me. And when I went to that dressing room, at Celtic Park, everything was totally different. So it took quite a bit for me to start to understand. And but again, it's an experience. And when you go through those situations after that, it felt like the club is going through those stages, and I am going through those stages alongside the club. So the club was having so many difficulties with the Kellis, and then Fergus McCann came, and he bring Lou McCarry, and then Lou McCarry left, and come Tommy Burns, and then they decided to build to rebuild the Celtic Park. We moved to Hampden. But again, that was a procedure that was going along with me. I was growing, Celtic was growing. I was developing, Celtic was developing. At the end, we won the trophy in '95. And that again was a great achievement for me because that was a big thing for me again, for an Albanian to leave his country. I was the first Albanian to win a trophy in a Western country. So was great achievement. And again, nobody can take that away from me. But as I say, Celtic was growing. I was growing alongside. Celtic was developing, achieving better things, and me the same. So until everything ended up in 1996, and that's it. I spent 4 seasons, 92, 96, and I scored against Rangers, won the trophy, the only trophy as a manager Tommy Burns won was 1995, the Scottish Cup. So I was part of that history, and I am very proud of it. I'm very, very proud, and I feel good. I feel really good. I have great relationship with the fans, and I was not the best player in the world, but whatever I had, I gave it for Celtic. And to be honest, I was never there for the money. Material thing didn't mean anything to me. The most important thing for me was because I was happy waking up every morning and walking into that front door of Celtic Park was the best feeling in the world. And I looked forward, even though the weather was horrible and people were happy, people were smiling, people were welcoming you, and was a very warm atmosphere. And I had great time.
Rudy, is Glasgow? Do you consider Glasgow home?
I consider Glasgow home because people make you feel like home. And Glasgow is not my home. Scotland is not my country, but I feel home because I feel comfortable with the people. People treat me good. People are kind of respectful. You give respect, you get respect back. That's life. That's what life is all about. So I think you need to earn the respect. You don't. Again, you cannot buy respect. You need to earn, and you earn it because you do something right. And again, I earned the respect. People realize, the fans realize I was fully committed. I gave my best. I gave my all. But not just Celtic. That's my life. That's how I am. I live life. I give everything. When I get committed to something, I am 100% on it. So, and people appreciate that. That's very simple.
Yeah, I always find, Rudy, when I talk to you, and especially when I interview you and we have an audience, that the conversations are inspirational and people always comment after them and come up to us. And life after Celtic, you played in numerous countries, you managed, you became a football agent, you've been successful in business. Like, kind of, it's an inspirational story to come from where you came from to where you are, but yet you still are respectful to everybody. And as you said, you went to Celtic for the money.
100%. I didn't go for the money. If Celtic had offered me, if I had been working for the Celtic for the same amount of money, I would never left. Because that day was very sad. I said early on when I left France, I felt sorry, but I was not sad. When I had to leave Celtic, that for me was like a disaster. Really disaster, because those people, as I said, I had great connection with the kid man, with the lady there, in whoever, with all the people of the club. I was so close. I had a great attachment to them. And it felt like I am losing one very important part of my body. It's going, but again, I had to be strong. I had to make sure that I'm going to live, because I was young. I had to play and I had to make my living, and I had to build up, to create my family, and so and so. But again, was not easy, and it's not easy for any foreigner coming to a club like Celtic, adapting, settling, accepting. And nowadays it's all about material, but I was a poor man, to be honest. But again, the love, you cannot buy. Again, love you cannot buy. And this is some kind of love affair I had. Was mine. For 4 seasons I was there. I was deeply in love with the club, and I felt the club was in love with me for some reason. That's how I felt at the time. And I knew, because when people like you and respect you and they welcome you, you feel like, yeah, they like me, they love me, I love them. Simple as that. It's simple. It's an emotion. You get it or you don't get it. I cannot say the same thing. I lived in Germany for 4 years, but I cannot say the same. I had the same kind of connection with the people in Germany as I had in Scotland. So, and again, Germany was also a great experience. Played in Bundesliga, but this is more than This is more than an experience when you play for Celtic. It's much more than an experience, you know.
And off the field, Rudy, as well, you met your wife in Glasgow.
Yeah, in Hamilton, 95, I think, December, just 6 months before. 6 months before I left Celtic, 6-7 months. So, and yeah, she traveled with me, and she came with me in Cyprus, in Germany, in Japan, Albania. So, and we are back since 2004 now. We are back in Scotland, and that's it. Life, it's beautiful.
Now, you said that Albania is home, although you've got a love for Glasgow. Now, they've named the Celtic Supporters Club after you, the full Celtic Supporters Club in Albania. Must be very proud. And the president is always tweeting about Celtic. What's the connection there, Rudy, with the president?
The president is an old friend of mine. He was a weightlifter. He was a sportsman in Dinamo. When I was in Dinamo, we spent time together. I was a young man, 18 years old. I went to play for Dinamo Tirana when I was studying in University of Sports there. And the president was part of that club as well, Ilir. And he was doing weightlifting. I was playing football, but we had some kind of friendship at the time. Later on in life, he became the prime minister of the country. And he had to deal with, in late 90s, he had to deal with George Robertson, a big Celtic fan. Mr. Robertson was the Secretary of State of Secretary of Defense of United Kingdom of Britain, and then he became the chief of NATO. And Ilir, he became very close because with the situation in Kosovo and Albania, and they spoke a lot about Celtic and about myself because George Robertson was also the MP of my area in Hamilton, and I knew him personally. So, and Ilir became a fan of, obviously, because he was a prime minister. He come to visit national team very often. He supported us many times. We played actually against Greece in late 90s, and he gave us a big bonus to beat them. You know, we had a lot of difficulties with our people had immigrated in Greece. They were not very good treated by there, and they were discriminated a little bit. And when national team played Greece in Albania, Ilir, he put a bonus for the team to win. I believe at the time was in a region of $200,000 for the team to beat Greece. We beat Greece, and he kept the promise. He gave us, I think, big bonus. Everybody got over 10,000-15,000, something like the players who played $10,000-15,000 for that win. And all our people in Greece who were working in Greece, almost 1 million people, they were very proud of themselves. We made them feel proud at the time, you know. So that's how we kept our contact with Ilir. We stayed friends in terms of friends. And last year actually was when everything started, when began, because he was in Bosnia and Scotland. Celtic had to play Sarajevo in Champions League last season, and Ilir was there for his work. I don't know. He was in a meeting with the Balkan leaders. I'm not sure exactly. And after that meeting, he said that I went into the street. I had, he says, a green tie and a white shirt on, he says. And some of the, he ended up meeting some fans in the town there in Sarajevo. And they said something about his tie, he believed, and then he realized those are the Celtic fans. And then he asked them about me, and they started to sing my name, the Celtic fans, and Ilir ended up drinking beers with those fans in the center of Sarajevo. and they had some fun there, great time. He enjoyed that. He was very emotional about it, and he said, "My God, those people are different, you know. These people have been all over the world," he says, "but I've seen football fans, but those fans are something." And he called me, he contacted me, and he thanked, I believe, them after. And since then, he became addicted. So Celtic, now he's addicted to Celtic. So he's telling me all the time, but he's giving me news actually about Celtic most of the time.
He's telling you now. Well, it's a very positive addiction.
So it's yeah, that's it. To be honest, it's we had this. He thought, and I proposed. I said it's good if we can have the Celtic supporters club Albania. What do you think? And he he thought, and he says, yeah, we do that, even though we need to do a lot of work to build up the basis. And Albania is a country, normally they watch a lot of Serie A games there, and they are crazy about Juventus, Inter, Milan. But Celtic now it's there, so people are starting to build up and to kind of become friends. We are thinking for a convention, to have a convention next year, and we need to find the right place, I think, and for the people to come and to have a good time there. And yeah, but right now the political situation is not great in Albania, and he's a bit engaged with what's going on. And but he's a Celtic fan now. He's the number one Celtic fan, and then first president of any country to become a Celtic fan. And he's asking me for scarves, he's asking me for jerseys, for everything. So he wants everything now. Whatever is involved with Celtic, he wants to have. So he promised the fans that he's going to come and he's going to be there. He says to me, I like to sit with the normal fans. I want to sit there with the Green Brigade. He says, oh, that's where I like to go.
Unbelievable.
So he's planning. Hopefully things will get better. We'll get the freedom again, and the fans can be allowed, and then Ilir will come for sure.
Brilliant. Now, closer to home, your own son Rocco is on Celtic's books. He's also playing underage for Ireland, and there's a lot of talk about him, how good of a player he is in Glasgow in the underage setup. But he's played underage for Ireland. What's the connection there?
His granny is Irish, so from the mother. So she's from Dublin, and obviously Rocco's mother, Anne Francis, she's half Scottish, half Irish. So her mom is Irish, her father is Scottish, and Ireland, they recognize, the Irish FA recognized that Rocco can play for Ireland because of that connection. And they made the inquiries, and they were very, very professional. They were very quick to react, and it all came naturally. He asked me what I think. I says whatever you wish, and Ireland was the first country to come up with a proposition, with a plan, and he became the under 15. Now he's under 16 or 17, I don't know, but he's very happy. He's been treated very well by the Irish FA and by the coaches, and he's having great time with the players there. Back home, they are calling me a traitor in Albania because in their culture is that you must dictate to your child to where to go. But at the end of the day, I learned everything by freedom, because the good things I learned when I lived as a free human being, you know. And I know that my child is free to choose, and nobody is going to dictate him what to do and how to do it. If he is happy to make a decision, fine. he can go along with it. I can advise him, but I cannot dictate him. And I would love him to play for Albania, but if he feels like he wants to play for Ireland, then let it be so. It's nothing I can do. And as long as he's happy, and as long as he make the right progress and he develops, because he has a lot. He has a lot of potential. I don't go and watch him, but I hear that people are saying a lot of good things about him. He's a talented boy. He's got passion. He's got everything that is required for him to become a top player. But if he doesn't work hard, and if he doesn't become a top profession to live, to eat, to drink, to sleep football, he's going to waste his opportunity. This is a very, very beautiful game to play, but it's one of the most difficult jobs to maintain, to keep up to the demands. You need to be very, very smart, and you need to dedicate your life to that job if you want to make it, to go right to the top. And he is born in a beautiful country. Is working with a big club. He has the potential. Everybody's seen him, has big hopes. I always believe in good things. I try to advise him to make sure he always listen and put his head down and work. And if he stay humble, if he has the right attitude, and if he's focused, I think he's going to become something very big and very special. If he wastes his energy, his time for small things that are not related to football, then he can become a mediocre player, or he can not even make it, because this game is very, very, very delicate. You need to be in the right time, and you need to wait for that moment. And when it comes, you need to take it. The opportunity will come once, and there is everybody out there looking for that opportunity. But as I say, he's in a free country with lots of opportunities, and he can decide whatever he feels like, as long as he's doing the right thing.
Well, I'm sure he's got a proud granny and mammy when he pulled on that green jersey, because I know Irish grannies and Irish mammies. But inspirational words, I'm sure he gets from you, Rudi. And as you say, he's a talented kid. Ireland have lost two talented players in Rice and Grealish recently to the England senior setup after we had them through the youth and the underage system. So hopefully Rocco does make it, and hopefully he becomes a senior player with Ireland, because we're a small country and we're always on the lookout for the best players we can bring in through the diaspora. Now, Rudi, this conversation is coming to an end, and we've had conversations at our live shows, but we never get the full story of Rudi Vata. So when are we going to read the book? Because in that book, there's probably even a film, because the Rudi Vata story has to be told.
Good question, my friend. But there are many people who ask me to write a book, and something, Andrew. To be honest, I never took my time to think about it. I know that it's going to be a great book, and I know it's a story that cannot be repeated. Because as and now the communists are dead. They're not going to be reborn. And this story cannot happen twice. In the heart of Europe, Albania is right in the heart of Europe. To have a country who has a dictator with a name like Enver Hoxha, I don't think the history of a human being will never have again. But as I say, I need to speak to serious people, and I need to speak to dedicated people who understand my story, maybe, and who feel that they can help me to write the book, because I cannot write the book on my own, to be honest. I had certain people asking me, but I had the feeling that they were not the right people, so maybe soon, or you never know, I'll find the right person and write that book, and that's it. Because I'm in that book, you can learn a lot, and it's an inspirational book because it comes from a man who was born very poor in a very poor country, as I say, is in the middle of Europe, and went through some stages that you can think they are almost impossible. But even when you're flat down, you still have a chance to survive. And that's what I did. Maybe I was right flat on the ground with no hope and nothing, but I still believed I can, And one of the most inspirational moments in my life, I tell you, when I was in France, I was desperate for news, desperate to get something. And I asked that Mr. Jean-René Belliard, I says, what's happened? What's going on? Because at the one point with Celtic, things were not, he was not giving me enough good news. If I'm going to sign or not. And he told me, il faut croire, he says, you need to believe is going to happen. And growing up in Albania, we didn't grow up with believe, but that word, you need to believe, made me realize that I have to think about that word, believing. So I believe I'll write my book, but I don't know exactly when that time is going to be the right time.
Well, Rudi, I'm sure there's still more chapters in the Rudi Vata story. But as I said, we would love to read the full story. Celtic was a club founded by refugees. Rudi Vata was a refugee. He came to play for that club, and it's just gone full circle with your son returning to play for Ireland, the country of, I suppose, the early Celtic founding fathers. So 100%. Your story is it's so unique, Rudi, and I always get goosebumps when I speak to you because it's just an amazing, amazing story. So I'd like to thank you very much for opening up your Celtic soul to us on the podcast. And I look forward to chatting again, Rudi, because every single time I chat to you, I learn something new.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for the interview, and thanks to all the Celtic fans for supporting me. And I wish them luck and health and all the very best in that future, and remain positive and remain strong, because they can. They need to believe that difficult times, but we can all manage, and we get back to normality soon, hopefully.
And when we do get back to normality, Rudi, we'd love to see you over in Ireland. We'd love to have you for one of our nights that maybe you would come and speak, because you're inspirational.
100% we'll do that, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Rudi.
You take care. Thank you.
I think all the listeners will agree that Rudi's story needs to be told in full. Let's hope he does get that book written. And as I said, there's a movie in this story. More Than 90 Minutes, issue 110 is still available. We have a small number of print copies left. If you want to go online, onto the website, you can buy them. You can also download the digital edition, or alternatively, you can take out a quarterly or yearly subscription. With no ground or match day sales, your support is much appreciated to keep the print copy alive. We start work on issue 112 early next week. Check out our new t-shirt designs, which can be pre-ordered, and we will stick a little Christmas gift in with each order. Did I just mention Christmas and it's not even Halloween? There you go, you have to get the punt out early. As always, thanks to our producer Ronan McQuillan. If you like what we're doing and you would like to support us, you can do so for a $5 or the price of a pint at CelticFanzine.com. You can become a member, subscribe, buy or donate. Thanks to everyone who has listened and supported us so far. Don't forget to download our new app, it's free, and then you will have access to all our podcasts, articles, daily news, video, event information, the fanzine and our online shop, all at the touch of a button on your phone or tablet. All episodes of the podcast are now available on all platforms, so hit the subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode. Also, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Celtic Fans in TV, and you won't miss our new show. We've been working hard on it, but COVID has once again struck, and new restrictions have held up the new vodcast and the new live social distance shows. But we're going to have a rethink, and we should have more news for you soon. Thanks again to our episode sponsor, Brendan McCann, over there in Dubai. Much appreciated, Brendan. Keep the faith. If your business or Celtic Supporters Club like what we're doing with the podcast and would like to become a sponsor, please email us at info@celticfanzine.com, and you can also contact us through the website or message us on social media. Keep all your comments coming in and let us know what guests you would like us to get on the show, and if you have a story to tell, get in contact. And also, if your Supporters Club is an event coming up or some news for us, get in contact and we'll give you a plug. We will be back on Tuesday with episode 34 when another guest will be opening up their Celtic Soul to us, and we will look back on the Rangers game and look ahead to the visit of AC Milan to Celtic Park. So all that's left to say, folks, now is once again thanks for listening, enjoy the weekend, and let's hope Celtic can get a positive result against the Newco on Saturday. It's another game on our virtual season ticket at home, another week without visiting Celtic Park, but I do hope to get out to the local beer garden for a few points to celebrate. So stay tuned, stay safe, and as always, keep the faith.